بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. This video for studying chapter 3 in ECON 340, demand and supply. In this chapter we have 4 parts. We'll study demand theory, number 1. Number 2, we'll study supply theory. Then we'll study equilibrium in the market. Then we try to find the effect of a change in demand and change in supply, change in both of them. And we make what's called comparative static analysis in the short and in the long term. So we have 4 parts in this chapter, inshallah. First is demand theory. Demand in economics means somebody, if we speak about individual demand, consumer wants to buy the good, plus he or she has enough money to buy it, able to buy it, plus plans to buy the good. 3 of them together means the person ready to buy the good. So we have to have willing to buy, plus able to buy, plus plans to buy. If we speak about individual demand. If we speak about the market demand is demand that comes from all consumers for just one good. So we can define market demand as the amount that consumers, households, ready to buy. Ready means, as I said, willing plus able plus plan. Willing to buy a good at certain prices when we have other factors are constant. In this chapter, we're concerned about the demand theory and supply theory. We speak about market demand and the market supply, not individual demand, not individual supply. So we consider market demand. The market demand, as I said, the amount of consumers ready to buy at different prices when we have other factors are constant. What are factors effect on demand? What are factors push the households to buy more or less? Many factors. First factor is price of the same good. If price of the same good increases, for sure, quantity demand will decrease in the opposite direction. Negative relationship. Negative relationship means the two variables change in the opposite direction. I mean, one of them increases and the other decreases. If price increases, quantity demand decreases. This is the first factor effect on quantity demand. Put in your mind that price is independent variable and quantity demand is dependent. I mean, price change first, and when price changes, will affect on quantity demand change in the opposite direction. The second factor is income of the consumer. We have here 2 types of goods. In normal goods, if income increases, quantity demand will increase in the same direction. Direct or positive relationship. Income here means amount of money purchased or spent on this good. Amount of money spent on this good. Inferior good, the other one. Inferior good is bad good. If income increases, quantity demanded for inferior good will decrease. You can say inferior or given, Giffen. This a person explain this type of good. Economist, I mean. So the second factor effect on quantity demand is consumer's income. If we have normal good, more income, more quantity demanded. Positive direction or positive relationship. Positive means the two variables change in the same direction. Both increase or both decrease. Here, income is independent and quantity demand is dependent. Third one is expectation. Expectation for price and for income. If we expect the price of the good will be more in the future, our current quantity demand will increase. Positive. And if we expect we have more income in the future, our income will be more in the future, will increase our current quantity demand as well. So the two expectation have positive relationship with the quantity demand. If we expect higher income, if we expect higher price, now our quantity demanded will be more. Fourth one is number of consumers. Here number of consumers means purchasing power. If we have more consumers, so we have more money will spend on this goods, so quantity demand will increase. We speak about market demand. So more consumers, more quantity demanded. Positive. Fifth is like or dislike the good. If household, if they like the good, will purchase more, will quantity demanded will be more. If not, quantity demand will be less. Other one is price of other goods. We have here two types of goods. Substitutes. Substitutes in consumption means the consumer can consume one of the goods to get the same satisfaction. So the consumer can consume good number one or good number two and gets the same satisfaction. So the consumer can consume good number one instead of good number two, or can consume good number B or good number two, instead of good number one. If price of substitute good increases, quantity demanded for the substitute good will increase in the same direction. Why? Because if we have, for example, two goods A and B, if price of good A increases, okay, so good A becomes more expensive than good B, and both of them are the same of the consumer. Both are the same give the consumer the same satisfaction, same utility. So if price of good A increases, so the consumer will transfer to buy more from good B. Positive relationship. Here, positive relationship between price of a good and the demand for the substitute good. The relation is between price and demand, not between two prices, not between two demand. Price of a good and the demand for the substitute good. Positive relationship. Complements. Complements in consumption means the consumer should use both of them together. The common example here is tea and sugar. We have to use sugar with tea. So the consumer should consume both of them. Okay? So if price of sugar increases, quantity demand or demand for tea will decrease. Why? Because we have to buy sugar with tea. If the price of sugar increases, so sugar becomes more expensive, so we reduce demand from sugar, so we reduce demand from tea as well. Again, we try to find the relationship between price of a good and the demand for the other good, for the complementary good. The relation is negative. So how many facts affect on quantity demand? Many facts. Here, 7 facts. 7 facts affect on quantity demand. So it's better for us to find the effect of all of these facts together at the same time on quantity demand, but we cannot do it, or we can do this one if we have regression analysis. We can do it in ECON 441. We can do it in chapter 5 in our course. In chapter 5, we can find the effect of all of these facts together at the same time by using regression analysis in chapter 5 or in ECON 441. But demand theory just focus on one of them. Demand theory is interested in find the relationship between price of a good and the quantity demanded. So what about the other factors? The demand theory assume that the other facts are constant. The other facts remain the same. The other facts don't change. Remain unchanged. So here we try to find the relationship between price of a good and quantity demanded, and we will use 4 different economic model. Economic model, as you studied in ECON 140, is a model can be used to simplify information. So we can use table summarize the information. We can use equation, we can use law, and so on. So we will study price of a good and its effects on quantity demanded. We will study demand theory by using 4 different economic models. First one is demand equation. Demand equation, all of these facts can put in one equation. So quantity demand is function means depends on. So quantity demand for a good depends on price of the same good, expected price, expected income, number of consumers, taste, price of substitutes, and the price of complements. But as I said, demand theory just focus on the relationship between price of a good and its quantity demanded. So we can rewrite this equation to be quantity demanded function of price. And we have to write here when other factors are constant or ceteris paribus. Because this assumption or definition or expression means the other factors are remain the same, are unchanged. We can put this equation in first degree equation. First degree equation is when the independent variable power is 1. Here is price. So quantity demand is A minus B, P. B first one, B for book, and B for pen, for example. So we have here negative sign, very important issue. Negative before price. Why? Because the relationship between price and quantity demand is negative. So we have to have negative sign in the equation of demand, or demand equation. We can use any numbers because this is not real data. Quantity demand is equals to 40 minus 2 price. 2 price, 2, value of 2, I mean 2. Here is the slope of the curve, or you can say the amount of change in quantity demanded for every one change in price. I mean, if the price is changed by one unit, how much the quantity demand will change? Will change by 2. If price changes by 1 unit, 1 unit may be 1 dinar, maybe 100 and so on. If price is changed by 1 unit, the quantity demand will change in the opposite direction by 2. This means minus 2 price means what I said. How much dependent variable will be changed if the independent will change by just 1 unit. And we can study the relationship between price and quantity demanded by using schedule. This one. We have price and quantity demanded. Price 120, so quantity demand is 1,200. People, consumers, households plan to buy 1,200 if the price is 120. So if price is 100, their demand should be decrease in the opposite direction. Increase, sorry, the opposite direction. Because price decreases, so quantity demand should increase in the opposite direction. So if price decreases from 120 to 100, quantity demand will increase from 1,200 to 1,300. Again, if price decreases again from 100 to 80, quantity demand will increase from 1,300 to 1,400 and so on. So there is negative relationship. This economic model. Economic model means if you look at the table, you find the relationship is negative directly and by simple way. This is demand schedule. And we can use demand curve. If we use these values and put these values in the graph, we will get this curve. This curve is demand curve. This curve is downward sloping curve. Why? Because the relationship between the two variables on the two axes is negative. In ECON 140, you studied that if the relationship between the two variables on the two axes is negative, the curve must be downward sloping curve. So if we have downward sloping curve, this means the relationship between the two variables on the two axes is negative. So we have demand curve must be downward. Why? Because the relationship between price and quantity demand is negative. By the way, quantity demand is dependent variable and the price is independent. So in mathematics, we should measure price on horizontal axis and quantity demand on the vertical one. But in economics only, we measure price as independent on vertical. Because economics is different. We are different. Okay? So demand curve is downward sloping curve, and we measure price on vertical axis even the price is independent variable, and we measure quantity demand as dependent on the horizontal axis. Now we try to distinguish between demand and quantity demanded. Quantity demand is amount at a price, amount the consumers plan to buy at a certain price. If we look at I will return back to the table, 1,200 at 120. This row called quantity demand, amount that consumers plan to buy at one price. 1,600 at 40, quantity demand. So each row here is quantity demanded, and each row represented by just 1 point on demand curve. So quantity demanded is amount that consumers, if we speak about market demand, amount that consumers plan to buy at a certain price can be represented by just one row in demand schedule, one row, and 1 point on demand curve. One row, 1 point. But demand is all amounts that consumers plan to buy at all different prices. Okay, if we look at the table, all amounts, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, and so on, all of these amounts at all these prices, different prices. So all of this table called the demand, and all of this curve called the demand. So demand as an economic term means amount, all amount that consumers plan to buy at different possible prices, represented by the whole demand schedule and the whole demand curve. Now we distinguish as well or differentiate between change in demand and change in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded first return to change in the price we measured on the vertical axis, price of the same good. So if price changes, quantity demand will change. Look at this one. If price changes from 120 to 80, so quantity demand will change from 1,200 to 1,400. So this is called the change in quantity demanded. Why? Because we have a change in the price of the same good. Okay, this leads to, as I said, as you show, leads to change from one row to another, but in the same demand schedule, and will change from one point. We move from one point to another, but along the same curve. So change in quantity demanded, returning back to change in price of the same good, and leads to moving from one row to another in the same demand schedule, and from one point to another on the same demand curve. But change in demand. The reason here is change in one of the other facts we assume to be unchanged. If we have a change in expected price, if we have a change in expected income, if we have a change in a number of consumers, if we have a change in taste, I mean people change from like to dislike, or from dislike to like the good. If we have a change in price of substitutes, if we have a change in price of complementary good, if we have a change in one of them, this leads to change all of these amounts. Will be more or less of this one. So we have a change in the whole demand schedule, and the demand curve will shift to the right if we have increase in demand, or to the left if we have decrease in demand. So change in demand means the change in one of other factors, and this leads to change the demand curve, change demand schedule first, because all amounts will be changed, and leads to shifting demand curve rightward if we have increase in demand, or leftward if we have decrease in demand. Right, increase. So if we have shifting to the right, this means we have increase in demand. If we have shifting to the left, we have decrease in demand. So this point is quantity demanded, was just 1 point, but the whole curve is demand. And if we have change in quantity demand, we move from 1 point to another, but on the same curve, maybe up or down. If we move from this point to up one, this change in demand, increase in quantity demanded if we move up, or move down if we have decrease in quantity demand. decreasing quantity demand. Okay, so if we move from point this one to another one, so if you look at the horizontal axis, if we move down, so we have increasing quantity demand, because if you go to the horizontal axis, we find that quantity demand will increase. But if we move up, so we have decreasing quantity demand because price increases. But if we have the change in demand, so we have the whole curve will shift to the right if we have increase in demand, or shift to the left if we have decrease in demand. This demand theory. And this is the end of this video. Next time, inshallah, next video, we'll study supply theory. Thank you very much and have a nice time.